Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper. This is another video on Godforge. And this is a little bit of a what if, a little bit of what's going on, what's happening. You can see to my left, or right, I don't even know how this works anymore. To my side is some leaked images from last week. I didn't get a chance to put anything out on them. As a matter of fact, I actually made a short, but I didn't like how it went out. It's such a 1 minute. Can we get long form shorts? Does that make sense? Can we get 2 minute, 3 minute shorts? All the other are doing it, YouTube. Everyone else is doing it. Instagram, I can make a 10-minute short or 10-minute reel or whatever. I need that happy medium. Anyway, not the point. The point is today I want to talk about 5 things that I feel that this game, this company is going to need to do to be successful. And this is probably going to be mostly high level type things. I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty because we don't know the nitty gritty yet, but just some things that from my previous experience in these games, which admittedly is limited, but just in general, how games are perceived to be successful. And I would say especially in the content in this gacha game or even in the mobile phone, which is different than traditional AAA titles, indie titles. This is a different world. This is a different signifier, and so some of these things might not be things that we want as players, but it's something they're going to need as a company. And so without further ado, let's take a look at another image. A Mesoamerican building. Obviously we're talking about Mayan architecture. You're seeing some really cool stuff here, the moss, the fungus, those sort of things. These ruins have over the centuries developed this kind of ecosystem that's grown through it, which is kind of cool. And then you've got the red paint. The red paint is something that if you look today, you'll probably see, you'll probably still see red pigmentation on some of this stuff. So I like that. It's a very neat idea. I would say the thatched roofs is kind of interesting. Is this a broken down society or is this a living? Because if it's living, would the moss be there? And if it's a past society, wouldn't the thatch be gone? But anyway, not important. 5 things. The first thing I think is getting this game in front of players. This is arguably the most important thing you can do, and it's also arguably the thing that most of these companies do poorly, and the ones who do well do it really well. Now, does this have to be advertising? Probably to a degree, but how they do it, hey, come up with different ideas, come up with different ways, but getting this in front of people is arguably the most important thing you could possibly do to make Godforge actually be successful. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at Raid Shadow Legends, a game that most of you that are subscribed to this channel have probably seen. Most of you watching have probably played. Maybe some of you have came from watchers or just stumbled upon this channel. But Raid Shadow Legends has been a 5-year meme, especially in those first couple years. There were ads that were completely oblivious to the actual play of the game, arguably intentionally so, maybe not. Advertising companies that they paid to put these things on Facebook, Instagram, probably Snapchat, I don't even know. But everywhere and anywhere, inside games. I actually found Raid Shadow Legends while playing The Walking Dead, and you get bonus resources if you watch a couple videos. One of those videos was Raid Shadow Legends, brought me into the game. They just needed to get it in front of people. And it doesn't matter that it was a meme. It doesn't matter that all these content creators on Twitch, on YouTube, were playing this game like it was funny. They were playing this game like, how about that? Oh, look at me go. You look at me go. Yeah, everyone's got one of those friends that does that's the jump button to them. They got to move the thing up. By the way, new phone, Google Pixel. The 9XL. I decided to switch over from Samsung because I'm tired of Samsung's bloatware, and I'm actually just tired of Bixby. And because it'd been 2 years, and I get a new phone, and so why wouldn't I? Anyway, so yeah, getting that in front of players. It was a meme. Everyone mocked it. I watched so many Twitch streams, and I was even, as a Raid streamer, was sponsored by Raid to get Raid into people's homes, and Raid never really pushed back on that. They never, and they were giving away, you know, $400, $500, $1,000, $4,000, $10,000, and probably more if you think of the big promotions, like for example Ninja. They just wanted to get it in front of people, because here's the crux of their position. If you get 50 people to download this game and put it on their computer and play it, even just for the first 5 minutes to help you as a streamer get your sponsorship money, all it takes out of those 50 is 5. And out of those 5, all it takes is 1 to spend. And now you've got 5 more people engaged with the game and one more person putting money into the game. And then it's on to their secondary wheel just to get them to spend more, to get them to spend obscene amounts of money. That's all something different. But the just getting it on people's computers, on their phones, especially their phones, and having that opportunity to get it in front of people so that people get addicted to it, and there's no, in my estimation, a lot of people might want to disagree with this, but the numbers don't lie. Raid Shadow Legends became the powerhouse in this community, this game, this genre, especially for monetization, making money, making millions and millions of dollars, because they got it on so many devices. The percentages were in their favor. Remember, this is a casino company owning a division of gaming. They understand. I've played Aristocrats casino games. I've played a lot of their slot machines. Some of them are some of the best and most fun ones. And it's that engagement that allows people to keep spinning, which allows people to keep playing, which means all the analytics look good for things like Google Play and the iOS, the store. And that means it goes up in ranking. They want free-to-play players. They just want as many players as possible to be playing it. They get to say, hey, look, 1 million simultaneous downloads this month, those sort of analytics. Look, people are playing it for multiple times. And then all they need is a percentage, which the numbers are the numbers, right? If you have X players, X percentage of those are going to spend, and that's how they're successful. And I think that's the first thing that they have to do, is have a winning strategy to get this game in front of players. And I think that's something that they don't have to think about right now. Obviously, I'm sure it's something in the back of their minds. The best game in the world played by no one is not worthwhile. The mediocre game played by everyone could be argued to be a success. And hopefully they find that balance of being even better game, but still getting in front of everyone. So that's the first one. The second thing I think they have to do is a balance of playtime. And this is something that I feel Raid failed miserably at. And I think it's something that Watcher of Realms does very well. Your daily gameplay, not including all these extras, just your daily gameplay. What you have to do, if you're like, hey, I don't have time today, what's my bare minimum? The time to play is less than an hour versus multiple hours, arguably, in Raid, especially before they allowed the, for example, Clan Boss auto key. It's just so much time. And you think about what Raid's done, and Raid's position was engagement, time playing is a major metric that they wanted to achieve. And I would argue that that actually is one of the major things that drove me away from the game, because I had gotten frustrated with some of the monetization, some of the choices, but you can still play a game and be mad at the devs. Jay Gigs proves it more than anyone, right? He still plays Raid, even though he's very vocally against just about everything Plarium chooses to do. And I'd be in that same place, but I didn't have the time to focus on something that I felt that way about. So, you can anger your player base, you can make controversial decisions, but if the game takes too long to play and there's a second kind of external factor as to why they don't want to play the game, then it's out. Say I got sick. Say I got injured. Say Amanda got injured and I had to go there to take care of her for an extended period of time. My focus is drawn there. Well, even just now, my focus is drawn on my main job. So I have a lot of responsibility that I have to focus in and attend to there. And that's why Watcher has stuck with me, even though right now they haven't had an update for a few months. We don't need to get into that drama. Thankfully, it's back up and the updates are coming soon in this month. But the fact that the time investment was at a point where I could be like, I can just do my dailies in this game until they come back, right? I can do that because the investment of time was not insulting to my time. And I feel like raid again. You think of Hydra, you think of Clash, you think of 3v3, you think of 20 arena battles, you think of 10 3v3 battles, you think of weekly clashes or every second week or whatever, you think of Doom Tower, you think of all that stuff, all those dailies, those hours combined, and it becomes a time threshold that I'm not willing to pay. I know some people are. I appreciate that. This isn't a bash on raid. I just think that finding that balance and tuning it to the reasonable, and then you find out when your players are most engaged, and that's when you add events. And I think again, that's what mostly Watcher is doing well. They make these events happen over weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They give you ample time for these extra events. So when you do want to do more than just your dailies, when you want to spend some energy, when you want to go to those more complex fights and dungeons, you can on your terms. And you have time to do it, and it's when there's typically more free time, you can do it, and you still doesn't take 3, 4, 5 hours. It takes a couple hours, and I think that's a big notion for this game. Before we go on to the other 3 that I feel need to be done, why don't we take a look at some more of these screenshots from the Mesoamerican or the Seba faction, which is going to be the Mayans. So this one here, you see it's a slightly different building type. You still have the trademark fungus and moss, but now you've got these snake heads running across each side. Then you've got these snake head sculptures. You still have the red paint. And then you move to the next one. You see here's the snake head sculptures, and what they're comparing them to in real life. These are actual pieces that they're modeling after, which is good. There's some authenticity to it. Feels realistic. There's my house. This is I don't know if you guys knew this, but Simon actually gave me a house in the game, so this is mine. Don't mind the blood. That's not what you think. I was just sacrificing peasants. Okay, maybe it is what you think, but the gods asked for it. So what am I supposed to do? Say no? Like you seen them? They get angry. Like you don't want to. Quetzalcoatl. Is that Quetzalcoatl? Quetzalcoatl? He's Aztec anyway, I think, not Mayan. Better just stop while I'm behind. So Mesoamerican pyramid looks really nice. You've got the lush green. You've got the red paint. It's very well maintained. It still has that moss. I guess the point is over hundreds of years, what you can maintain would be these levels and stuff. You can't get the blood out of stone. You can't get blood out of stone. It stains. And then you see another one. You see these are those mechanical totem calendar, which is really cool. It combines it, so it's got the orange fungus, it's got the red. These things rotate. Again, these are things that they have actually found. So this is giving you a base on reality, a base in the actual culture and history of the Mayan. And I guess these are kind of, unless they add them, I assume that this is kind of adding Mayan, but also representing Incan and Mexican, or Incan and Aztec, unless they add them separately, which is also another fun thing, because then you've got some interconflict there. If we keep going here, here's Pakal. Pakal was like the greatest Mayan leader. He's the one that expanded them and and brought them to their peak, arguably. So you're getting some real authentic history put into the game itself. So we'll get to more of those, but let's go to number 3 that I feel this game needs to do to be able to be successful, and that is graphically, this game has to hit at another level. It is not good enough to be as good as what's currently out there. The reality is you have to match and then be able to improve upon that. So Unity is a pretty robust system to work within, and I'm sure they understand that once they, the more money you're able to put into it, once they start making some revenue, there's going to be an opportunity to expand and enhance and get new assets and put more people on the team and stuff. I caution that, and obviously this is an alpha demo. We've seen the demo. It looks good. It looks really good, but there's a few little touches that I think by the time it gets out to full beta and especially full global release, it's going to have to step up about, just as a number, maybe 20% higher. And this might be, maybe they don't agree. Maybe they think it's strong enough. But from what I saw, little things like when the pillars fell in the background, which I think is a nice touch, that you've got dynamic backgrounds, it felt very flat. It felt very last gen. Whereas with the HDR settings and all the filters applied so far, you're champions are starting to really have some realistic life to them. Just making sure you put that throughout and making sure that you really appeal. I used to always say a great game does not need graphics. But I think in this genre, I think that's a bit of a pushback. And I'll say it because there's a lot of games out there that were the raid killer, and all of them had subpar graphics, and all of them have fallen by the wayside. And I feel like, hey, if you're going to go anime, that's a different thing altogether. I'm not talking apples to oranges. We're talking apples to apples. These guys are going into that realistic Arthurian, Western culture. I don't know what you call it. Medieval, I guess, style, look, feel. And that's Raid's domain, and you're going to have to be as good as them. And Watcher of Realms. I think Watcher of Realms does a pretty darn good job at their graphics as well. They definitely lean into the sexy woman. The high heel mantra is still alive. I think there's only a handful of champions out of the 1,000 champions that are 500, 600 female champions that aren't wearing high heels, which of course is absolutely realistic for battle. But anyway, get back to the point is they just really need to make sure that they're batting on the same level. And I think they're on their way. I don't think that this is a cautionary moment, but I think of games like Calibria and Awakened Chaos Era. I feel like they just didn't, they felt like, hey, we don't have to, we're going to have a better game, so we don't need to be better graphically or even on par. And I think it ultimately probably led to their demise, or at least it was a big piece, right? Because if you aren't delivering on that, here's our competitor and here's us, if there's ever a game mode where you fail, then what do you have to rely on? Hey, you know what? It looks good. It's fun to play. It's engaging in that respect, but it's not good looking. It's not fun to play. And you've lost that edge that you might've had. And you're just playing with fire. And I think they're on the right track, but I just wanted to reiterate, that it's very important to really hone in on that being in the mix for what you can achieve on these really crazy good displays that we have nowadays. Number four, I think, is the monetization of the game. Now, this is always so controversial, and I'll say this, and this is probably this will be my least favorited by you watching. Let the whales be whales, and I think this is another thing that Raid does mostly well. Their balance is terrible, but the reality is, free-to-play players have to be in a pool where they understand where they can compete and where they can be good. And you can't allow a free-to-play player to compete with a whale. I know you want to. I know in high-level theory, yeah, that's absolutely right. But whales want to spend money so that they are better. I think the best thing I heard was on a Watcher's video where it was a high spend account. It was like 50,000, and remember, Watcher is way less mature than Raid. And he said, I don't spend money so I win at the finish line. I spend money to win at the start line. That's their mentality. And that's what they want. They want to be able to spend to not just to, like my spend is spend to speed up what can already be done. But that's not their level. A Kraken or a whale or whatever you want to call them, the high-end spender wants to spend so that they win. And if you don't let them win, they're going to stop spending. And as many free-to-play players out there who are like, well, we should be able to compete. No, you shouldn't, because you're not paying the bills. And that's a sad thing to say, and that's an unfortunate way to say it. You can find other ways to monetize free-to-play players, like watching videos and then getting ad revenue, but that's such a minor spot. That won't pay as much as a bevy of whales like you have and still have in Raid and in these other games where these top end players, they have to win on the global scale. However, and this is the important however, and this is where I think Raid really fails and has accidentally succeeded in some ways, and I'll explain that in a second. You can make modes that level the playing field. And I think that's where Raid has really failed, because I can remember, for example, it was, I forget the name of the game. They had a version of Arena that was Gearless Arena. So if you had a good bevy of champions, even if you were free to play, you could compete on a level playing field. Now, that game had a ton of cosmetics. So, unfortunately, cosmetics in that game had stats applied to them, big stats, like whale stats. So unfortunately, it was actually the geared one that was more competitive for free to play. But you can do that. For example, I think another good example is Clash Royale. Tournaments were capped, so you could only have a certain level, and as long as you had a good strategy of champions that you can collect over free to play lifetime, you could actually win. You could compete. At least you could compete in one mode, and yet the overall scape of the game was that, hey, whales are still whaling, they're still winning, they're still having fun, they're still spending because of all that, right? But there was these certain modes and niches. Oh shoot, sorry, that's got to have been really loud. I bet you that hurt. And I just want to reiterate that that's really important, to be able to give yourself that opportunity where you can still win in modes while giving the whales what they want, which is winning at the start line. And I think that having that balance is so critical. And further to that, the free to play journey has to still be fulfilling. So, and Raid by accident achieved this, because the disparity between spender and non-spend as the game matured became so wide that a free to play player no longer even considered competing at that level. And so they knew that then they had a journey. Their journey was complete campaign, get to gold 5, complete faction, complete Doom Tower, hit Hydra, hit clan boss, get Ultra Nightmare clan boss, get Nightmare Hydra. You had those defined limits, and they didn't worry about competing on the world stage and for these tournaments that got free champions and all these things that were clearly Kraken design, they were clearly spend design. They could just disengage from that completely and just live within what they knew they were able to achieve. And it actually made the free-to-play game arguably more fun than any level of spend that wasn't Kraken level spend. Because, look, I spent a ton of money in that game, and I wasn't anywhere near. I was 1/10 of what the big spenders were. And those big spenders, those highest level spenders, I could never compete. Which is another thing that ruined the game for me, which is we'll get into that for the last one. But I gotta say, if you can let the whales be whales, let the Krakens win, and yet still have a fulfilling journey for the free to play low spend, you're gonna have success in the game, because you're gonna have downloads, you're gonna have people playing, you're gonna have these analytics that help games succeed. So that's the fourth one. Before we get to the final one, why don't we take a look at the last of these images that were leaked last weekend. Here you have wall connector. Again, they're grabbing actual different. You've got slime, fungus, thick moss. They really didn't upkeep this one. They did so well in the temple, and then they just let this one go. But it looks, again, realism. I like it. And here you can see some of the graphisms, I guess they're calling it. The extruded snake line taken from real life. The patterns, the geometric patterns here. The snaky lines, the pottery, all kind of drawing from actual artifacts dug from that era. Now you see again my house. Now I've put my Seba faction flag, which I guess I'd be more Arthurian or Germanic. Is there going to be a Germanic tribe? What are the old-timey Germans use for gods? Do we have that? I don't know. Maybe I'll have to just go to the Arthurian, but I'll take over. I'll change those when I move in. So more blood now. I've really added to the blood. There's some chips here with the peasants. That's why the blood. The peasants didn't take care of that corner. I told them to make sure it was impenetrable. There's a crack. Got to cut some heads. It's the rules. If you don't respect rules, they're going to push those boundaries. So anyway, Seba flag, very nice, good looking temple. And then we have the thatched huts, right? This is just added texture and culture and livability to these places. I like that. You see how they're showing how you make this hit so you can use it in its full form or its half form, like example up here. You have, again, the final one would be the ceramic pottery. You have pottery, different ones. They're showing the broken look as well as the regular. I'm hoping that means that these are things that they're dynamic. They'll break in the different ones. But there you go. There's the leaks. I hope you're excited about the new leaked faction, the Seba faction, the Mayan faction. But let's get back to the number one thing. And the number one thing that I feel like no game fully realizes is that is the journey of the mid spend. Arguably, these are your most important players. This is what makes something like, is it Summoners Wars? I believe is the one that this kind of the grand, feels like the spiritual successor to a lot of these games. They lasted for so long because they respected the mid spend. The mid spend is what made their money. Whales are a small percentage who give lots of money. They're nice. It's great burst, but they're kind of like, I hate to think of it. I always think of it as like in the Matrix, where it says humans are a virus. They spread and they consume. That's what whales do. They consume. They race to the finish. They spend to get to the finish. They spend to win, and then eventually they get bored and move on. Excuse me. The free-to-play player is going to make you next to no money. They're going to help with your matrix and analytics, but they're not going to make you money. So they're almost in the same boat as the whales without even giving you anything. So they're even less. But everyone else, everyone in the mid-spend tiers, or even the whale, but not like full Kraken $500,000 account, we're talking the $100 player, the $500 player, the $1,000 player. I feel like this is the missed opportunity that so many get wrong. And I think that's what gives you longevity. Because if I'm willing to spend $100 a month, which clearly I've shown I am able and willing, and I have the disposable income to do so, but I'm not going to do it haphazardly. So I have to know that there's a journey for me. And what I felt was one of the biggest imbalances in many of these games is you want to entice me to spend more, and that's fine. If you're like, hey, can we get $200 out of you this month? Maybe. If I have a $500 a year cap, can I get $6 out of you? That's the mindset for any good successful capitalist game. But I have to feel the value at the end of the day, not the remorse. I think FOMO buying is such a lazy way to earn my money. And as much as it does work in the short term, I think in the long term, it probably hurts you. And I'll say, for example, you look at World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft could over monetize the crap out of that game over the last 18, 17 years. It had its 15th anniversary at some point. It's got to be 20 years now, doesn't it? 25 years now? I don't even know. They could have over monetized that. That's very easy. But they had hey, we just want to get our $20 a month. If we can get $20 a month, and then from a few other people, we can get extra. I think they started out in cosmetics or not. I never played the game past the first 2 years, so you'll have to let me know. But obviously, this is a different landscape than World of Warcraft, so there's different avenues. But I feel like if you do it right and you give me the value, then you'll talk me into that $600 if I'm a $500 spender a year, or a $100 spender a year spends $120, or someone treats themselves on the birthday that was a free-to-play player. These are the sort of things, and I think there's so many different ways. One is adding value to packs. I've talked about that before. Do not treat me like I'm a pariah because I spent money. Like I get less because I've spent more. I hate that. I think that's disgusting, and I think that preys on FOMO. I think that's, again, like I said, I think that's lazy. I think that's lazy for the long term of the game. Give me tournaments that give me incredible value so that I feel the value in doing those tournaments. Give me new and varied gameplay that is PvE, so it's regardless of what the whales are doing, and we can all do it. And give me a chance to challenge myself against players in my world. If you do that, then I think this game will be very successful. I know that Simon and his team are very strong at understanding how things work in the games they've played. And if they can translate that, learn from their mistakes, I would say as a bonus one, and we're going to add a bonus one here, because I think that they're on the right path. I feel confident that this is a team that can do it, but I feel like a lot of teams can fall in a trap. I could envision a world where the original Plarium team, which I don't even think it was Plarium, whoever developed Raid, whoever the Fateless was that developed Raid before Raid was bought by Plarium, or in-housed as a small team and then grew and then was bought out by Aristocrat Gaming, however that whole development went down. I'm sure at the beginning they had the noblest of intentions. I don't think they started being like, we're gonna just steal everyone's money. They started with, you know what, let's make a fun game. And it's actually proven. Look how easy the Sir Nick Fusion was in their beta. It was sickeningly easy. And at some point that changed. I want to say it's around Foley, which is when I started playing, but it could have been before that, and it could have been sneaking up on it. But at some point, they lost that vision. So anyone can happen, and my hope is you don't lose that vision. And so I think they got the right team. It's a matter whether they stick to their guns, keep to their vision in the face of investors and money and profits and houses and cars and building my temple for me. Just don't overspend in the game. But I will say, as an extra, as a bonus one, don't listen to your community. I know that sounds stupid. Listen to the sentiment of your community, but I've seen it go both ways. Raid never seems to listen to anything except for their own internal, and that's terrible. And I've seen games that have always tried to overcompensate their community, but the problem is I might have one angle, Simon might have another angle, Susie might have another angle, and we all have the same sentiment. Something's wrong with this mechanic, this game. So listen to the sentiment. Something's wrong. But don't listen to the individuals, because then you've got 3 different individuals with 3 different points, and if you try to fix it for all 3 of us, you're going to piss two of us off. What you have to do is listen to the sentiment. Now imagine that by 100,000 people, 1 million people. Listen to the sentiment. Something's wrong. This isn't right. This doesn't work. You need to go back to you need to cook it. It needs to go into the oven some more, or whatever the case may be. And just follow that mindset instead of the mindset of, I have to listen to everyone or I'm not going to listen to anyone. So that's what I have. That's my wishes, my 5 plus a bonus for this game. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to this game. I'm looking forward to seeing stuff like this in an actual setting in the game. I'm looking forward to the beta, the alpha. Give me the alpha. Give me alpha access. My man, let me get in there. Let me break some stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.